Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of What's Your Story? Tonight we have the great pleasure of sitting down with Richard Smith. Richard is a board member here at the Graves Library, is man about town, has done many things for many different organizations. Welcome to our show.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure what definition of man about town really is, but I'll take it.
So, and I was just commenting on your Christmas colors. So you look very dapper.
Very much like an undecorated tree.
There you
correct?
go. There you go. So we usually like to start our conversation off asking our guests where they grew up.
Well, that is quite easy.
Okay.
I grew up in Lewiston, Maine.
Aha.
And my parents were both school teachers.
Yeah.
I had no siblings, so I had lots of attention.
Okay. And then after that?
After that, for college, although I had multiple options, I opted for a work-study program with the General Electric Company.
Oh, wow.
And in that program, there were several of us from Lewiston who made that same decision.
Yeah.
In that program, attended classes at Tufts University 3 nights a week for 4 years, while working a full shift at General Electric in a variety of training mode jobs, machine shop, drafting room, back when they still used pencils.
Yeah.
Even worked in the metalworking research lab for a semester. And at the end of the 4 years, had completed the equivalent of freshman and sophomore years of college.
Yeah.
Then took a leave of absence from GE, went to Tufts full-time to complete the bachelor's program.
Wow. And then where did you go on for, did you go to work for GE?
I went back to work for GE, and while doing so, went on and got a master's degree at Northeastern University, for which GE paid the tuition again.
Nice, very smart.
And most of my career was with GE in a variety of manufacturing management roles. I tended more toward quality control in the latter parts of those, but I worked in production control, human resources, shop management, and so on.
Wow.
And managed the assembly line for a couple of the jet engines, one of which is used in jet fighters, and another in helicopters, again, mostly military, although we did have some commercial applications. And then after about 20 years there, received a call from a headhunter who was looking for basically GE talent to staff upper management positions at Avco Lycoming.
Okay.
And I was invited to go to Avco as a vice president of quality assurance.
Wow.
And there, they again made jet aircraft engines. And they had won the contract to make the engine that was introduced to the M1 tank. Now, everybody knows that tanks should be driven by diesel engines, not jets. So there was that paradigm to overcome, as well as the fact that they did have some quality problems. Basically, I was brought there to help turn them around.
Wow. Wow. Are those programs still available for students?
I believe they are not. I believe they are not.
It just sounds like such a great
It was, and they were not unique in offering that at the time. General Motors had a degree granting apprenticeship program, as did several others. And it was a good opportunity in many ways.
Good investment.
Yes.
You know, good investment in the student.
Well, in part though, because that was being offered by that GE location, if after graduation the apprentice opted to go with a different GE division, the company saw that as a loss. They saw that as attrition. Their bookkeeping didn't recognize.
Okay.
Even though there was a lot of movement within divisions of General Electric. And after Avco Lycoming,
Yep.
I got another phone call. This time it was GE again. And I was the good news is they wanted me back.
Aha. Yep.
Perhaps the less good news was that was to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
And that is where they have their locomotive division. And it was a business that needed some help with their quality program, and GE's aircraft engine quality reputation, not just product quality, but the systems and so on, was pretty well recognized and respected throughout the company. And so that background and the fact that I had worked with that knowledge set in an environment other than GE's aircraft engines made me an attractive candidate to go to Erie.
Wow. How long were you in Erie?
I was there for almost 3 years. My family was there for about 1.
I've been to Erie. I know why.
I thought I knew what snow was all about, having grown up in Maine. And then in Erie, I learned the real dynamic of snow.
My brother-in-law taught at Gannon University.
Oh, yes.
And I went out a couple of times to visit. My family went out to visit, and it was quite snowy.
Well, and it's just the lake effect. And I had heard about it and read about it, but never truly appreciated it until I was there. So after the little over 2 years at Erie, then I was recruited back to GE Corporate, where they had an organization of people who would be more or less troubleshooters to virtually any GE business. And again, now I was labeled quality assurance, and so that was my focus in the GE corporate resource division.
Yeah. So from Erie, Pennsylvania, how did you get to Kennebunkport?
Well, we had always come to Kennebunkport at least for a day trip each summer.
Yeah.
My mom had worked in Cape Porpoise before my parents were married.
Oh, wow.
And so they apparently saw it as a nostalgia trip.
Yep.
I saw it as a necessary stop on the way to Old Orchard to ride the amusements. But that was how we were first introduced.
Yeah.
And by the time Pat and I decided that at least retirement was on our horizon, we knew we wanted to live on the coast of Maine. We didn't yet know where, so we began looking up and down the coast. And Kennebunkport was one of the few that was attractive to us, in part because it has a year-round population.
Right.
And that was important to us because we were not going to be just summer residents wherever we went.
And you have a couple of children.
We do.
And a few grandchildren.
Just a couple.
And a new dog.
Indeed. Indeed. Yes, our daughter and her family live in Watertown, Mass.
Okay.
And our grandson is 11 years old. And our son and his family live in Freeport, Maine.
Oh, okay.
And our granddaughter is 14 years old.
Uh-huh.
And they are best buds.
Yep. How nice.
They soon, in fact, we're going to be seeing our grandson's birthday was literally yesterday.
Okay.
And we're going to be celebrating it, meeting them for dinner next weekend. And our granddaughter is joining us.
Oh, nice.
So
now she gets you, well, they both get you moving. So I've seen you on different trips.
Yes, indeed.
With them individually.
And together,
So you,
but yes.
Yeah.
We well, first off, when they were very young, my wife said, I don't want them to think of us as those funny old people that they only see on holidays. So in the case of our granddaughter, they were close enough that we would see them frequently anyway, and we did babysitting duty.
Yep.
Yet they're far enough that, it was not a daily event.
Right.
And with our grandson, she basically said to our daughter, when you're ready to go back to work, you find daycare Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we will be Wednesday. And we did that every Wednesday for over 3 years, no matter what the weather.
Yep.
Usually both of us, but sometimes one, sometimes the other.
Yep.
And, that was the start of, I think, a very close relationship.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And having only 2 grandchildren, we told them that if they would pick a destination each in Europe that they would really like to see without their parents, just us,
Yep.
we would do these trips. So this year was our grandson's turn.
Yep.
We had done our granddaughter a couple of years ago. So he's kind of interested in special interest cars. And he said, Papa, I'd really like to see how they make Ferraris and Lamborghinis. And I said, yeah.
And you probably said, yeah, I think I would
said
too.
it very quickly, and away we went.
Wow.
But we stopped in London on the way and did the Harry Potter tour.
Yeah.
And he has also been fascinated with World War II, so we included the Churchill War Room Museum.
Oh, wow.
And my wife does all of the planning of the events and places to stay and so on, and then I do the logistics of getting there.
Wow.
Works well.
And this is something that they're going to remember forever.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Where did you go with Ruby?
With Ruby, she was a huge Harry Potter fan, so that was the primary focus of the trip. And then she said, but I would also kind of like to see the Eiffel Tower. And I said, you know what? I would like to ride the tunnel train. So we did that. And then in checking out the airfares and flight options, realized that Icelandic Air offers the opportunity to interrupt your trip with no incremental airfare charge.
Yep.
So I said, let's stop in a place where you can put 1 foot on each continent.
Oh.
And so we we spent a couple of nights in Reykjavik.
How fun. Oh my gosh. Mike Kelly, have you ever been there?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I know we had talked about that a little bit. So you're here in Kennebunkport, and you've been going ever since. You've been part of different groups, men's groups, and part of the now Old Goats, right? And you don't seem to stop. So
Try not to.
I think that's pretty wonderful.
Well, my wife once told me, she married me for better or worse, but not for lunch. So, we're both involved in a lot of activities.
Yeah.
When we first came here, I was still working, more in a consulting mode.
Yeah.
So I was traveling almost every week, and while I was away, she became quite active in town with the Garden Club and the Atlantic Hall and several other things.
Yeah.
And so that set a good pattern for me once I stopped my consulting, traveling, and so on to join in a similar type of activity. And we've met a lot of fantastic people through these affiliations.
Yeah. So you're on the Atlantic Hall board.
Correct.
And you're on the Graves Library board.
Correct.
Soon to be going off our board, but we would love to twist your arm and keep you here. But we know that.
Well, I will certainly stay involved in certain projects
That's
here
great.
and so on that, gee, now that you've got that on film. But I've learned that you kind of got to control the bandwidth of the things that we take on.
So that's right, because you need to enjoy life.
Yes, there is that.
How does the Atlantic Hall, how does that work? You have a committee, or you have a board.
Well, first off, the Atlantic Hall is really a charitable organization that was formed over 100 years ago. We were given a citation by the state back in 2012 for a 100th anniversary as a 501c3.
Oh, that's great.
And the official name of the organization is the Atlantic Firemen's Educational Association.
Okay.
So named because the organization was created to construct this building that still exists.
Yep.
Because the village of Cape Porpoise had become affluent enough to purchase its own fire truck, and they didn't have a place to keep it.
Okay.
And well, we not only needed something other than a borrowed barn for the fire truck, but we needed a village library and we needed a village meeting place.
Yep.
So it served those three functions. By the time they got a second fire truck, they reconfigured the front, had two doors.
Yeah.
The library was in the back, the meeting place upstairs. And I forget the exact date, but when the fire station was built across the street with yet another bay and certainly more modern, they moved the library to the front of the downstairs building. And so the Atlantic Hall is what we refer to as the space available to the public for rental and varieties of community use.
Yep.
And the Cape Porpoise Community Library, in its full name,
Yes.
is the front portion of the downstairs.
Yep.
Now, they use the upstairs for the audiovisual and so on, but it is one organization, and I've been on that board for nearly 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I like the term limits you have here at Graves, quite frankly.
I didn't know you've been on that board for that long.
Well, actually, Pat was on it actively, and I was still working in the earlier of those years.
Yep.
So for 6 or 8 of those, I rarely attended meetings. I just showed up when there was work to be done.
Yeah, yeah. Which you're very good at, by the way, because you've been, I mean, I will also say this on camera. Anytime I have needed anything while you have been on our board, and especially the building committee, I can't believe how quickly a call is made, something gets taken care of. I mean, it's been wonderful to work with you with regard to, you know, keeping this place.
As with most old buildings,
Yeah.
there is always something.
Yep, yep. But I think I've never seen that before with somebody just, wait, let me make a call. And then with what happens these days when it comes to plumber, you know, heat, any of that stuff, I could wait 3 weeks and not get a phone call back. But when Dick Smith calls somebody, that call gets returned.
Well, and many of the professionals that I call in for these things, plumbers, electricians, and so on, are people that I have had to call just a little bit earlier for something that has happened at the Atlantic Hall.
Well,
so that's how I build my Rolodex.
Well, it's a good Rolodex. Any other groups that you're part of that we might not know about? I know that you're, the Old Goats meets twice a month for lunch.
And that's all they do.
Yeah.
It is not a service organization per se. And I was much after the group was founded. I was not among the founding members.
Yeah.
It's just a group of guys that get together, guys that used to be in some form of a business environment, and until COVID, really, our paradigm was jacket and tie at lunch, and an Old Goats lapel pin, and if you forget to wear it, you pay a penalty.
Uh-oh. What's the penalty?
A quarter.
Oh, okay.
But since COVID, we have become a bit more relaxed in our dress code.
Yep.
And we do have a discussion group of about a dozen people. That was really an offshoot of, I think, the Newcomers Club, which we were in many years ago.
Yep.
And initially, I think that was an investment group, but it had ceased to become that before I was part of it.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was that although, individuals would do research and come back with recommendations, and as a group, they would buy a modest number of shares in different companies, they could never agree on when to sell.
Oh.
Or when somebody left the group on how to handle the,
Right.
So I think that became problematic.
Yeah.
Now, we may talk about things that are investment related, but more often they are just current events kinds of things. We stay away from politics, but or things about emerging technologies. And most of the guys in the group have some kind of a technical background, but it is so varied that there is always a fresh viewpoint.
Yep. And you also are part of a golfing group. I do know that.
We play golf. We play at it, and we like to go to a different course every week.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that variety of courses is half the fun.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it is a group of guys who are not so serious about the game, but what if you kind of make a bad strike, you can take a morning ball and not count it, or something like that.
A mulligan.
And yes, we have a whole list of names that we apply to them so that we can not repeat too often whether they're mulligans, morning balls, or what have you. But it's not for us about the score as much as it is about the group of guys.
The group that's how it should be, I think. And if you get out there and you want to be too serious, no thanks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are there any other committees that you're on here in town?
Not currently.
No?
No.
Is that a good thing?
Yes.
So what's for you next after getting off of our board, the Graves Library Board? Are you going to just kind of...
I am not going to commit to another one because I haven't figured it out yet.
Pat asked me to ask that question, so I just wanted to make sure. Speaking of Pat, where did you meet?
We met when I was in college on that apprentice program, and she was in high school. But she lived near Tufts, and she and some of her girlfriends came to a mixer. And because most of the others, had larger groups of friends and so on, they were off to one side, and I just said, gee, there's a girl I think I'd like to meet.
And then marry.
And, well, it wasn't quite that. We dated for a long time.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was driving that little 1952 MG that you've seen me in occasionally. And she, by contrast, was driving a 1957 Lincoln with a humongous vehicle with big fins and so on, same color as the MG.
Oh, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Oh my gosh. Well, as we get to wrap up our conversation, we usually do a one-word answer, rapid fire round. Okay with you?
Let's try it.
Okay. Favorite movie?
History of the World, Mel Brooks.
Okay. I love that one. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite author?
The most recent book that we read for our couples book club, maybe that's an organization I should have mentioned, was the one that I know the library book club also read, about Call Me American.
Oh, yeah.
The Somalian, and it was basically his personal story of struggles within Somalia and ultimately to come here. Probably 75% of it was the Somalian side of it, and it got into the political factions within Somalia and how they had emerged and so on. And so beyond understanding his story, I could extrapolate from that things going on in some other parts of the world,
Yes.
like South America,
Yes.
Somalia today, maybe even some here,
Yeah.
that is kind of, canary in the coal mine kind of message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, our couples book club, because this fellow currently lives in Maine, the person who was hosting it that week said, let's try calling him and see if he would like to join us for discussion.
Oh, wow.
And he did.
How
And he
great.
is charming. He is even more impressive in person than he is in page.
Yeah.
And so my quick response, my one-word answer is now 10 minutes long.
That's okay. That's okay. Do you have a favorite cocktail?
Yes. Sterling Martini, very dry. Olives, straight up.
Very nice. What is the coolest place you've ever been in the world?
Coolest.
Well,
and I'm sure
not
you don't mean temperature.
Right.
Oh, Lord. There are so many scales on which you could put coolest. But one that we have really enjoyed returning to is Cefalù, Sicily.
Oh, okay.
Now, by coincidence, one side of Pat's family came from there.
Oh, wow.
So that adds a depth of interest.
Sure.
But it is a community that is, although it's a tourist destination, it is less so than some of the others where there are major ruins located and so on. And yet you can walk the streets, get a sense of their history, they're really friendly people. And we like to go at a time of year that is not typical tourist season.
Yep.
So we're experiencing more interaction with the locals there than we are with people who are visiting from other international points of home.
Yeah. Do you have another plan for your grandchildren? Another place to take them, or was this it?
Well, we're always taking them places, but we don't have another one in the books at this point.
Yeah, okay. But you will.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
I know you will.
I'm sure we will. We took them to Montreal without their parents, but the two of them together.
Oh, fun.
Summer before last.
Yep.
And that was great fun.
Yep.
And before each of these trips, whether it's the individual trips or even this group trip, my wife, the school teacher, puts together a little research curriculum for them to do so that they can, they have to do a little bit of study about the destination, learn a few facts, and hopefully make it relevant.
That makes sense, because to go there, it's probably so overwhelming, and this would be a good way for them to kind of hone in on places too that they might want to see.
Well, and we like to get them focused on it sometime before the day we leave.
That's right. That's right. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Many.
Excuse me.
We were at Bandaloup's last week, and that always ranks strong.
Yeah. I have yet to go to that location. I used to love this one, but
yes,
I've got to get myself over there. So, what's your favorite thing on their menu? Do you have a favorite thing on their menu?
When it is offered, polpo.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Good to know.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
Now, of the standard offerings, they offer a pork rib that is very, very nicely done.
Okay, good to know. Well, I'm not going to ask you your favorite library because you'd have to give me 2 answers, but that's okay.
I can qualify them.
That's right. That's right. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. And truly, it has been such a pleasure working with you on the board and all the committees and volunteering. And we hope that when you leave us, that you don't leave us.
Well, I was going to say, just because I am timing out on
Yep.
the board.
Yep.
Don't think you're getting rid of me that easily.
Okay, we like to hear that. We like to hear that. But really, it's been a pleasure. And thanks for being here tonight. So, and thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you next time right here on What's Your Story?